It's not even half over the year, but I'm declaring it the fight of the year already. No fight's going to surpass the fight that we're talking about tonight when my guest, Covina, California's own, the Gladiator John Molina Jr. fought the Machine. He went up against Lucas Matthysse, and the fans won. John, it was an amazing fight. It didn't turn out the way it would if you had wrote the script, but there were no losers in the ring that night. How are you feeling now, 3 weeks after the fight? It was
3 weeks removed after the fight. We're back in the gym now. Actually started this week. Took a little off time, hung out with the family. Went to go enjoy the Mayweather fight. Did a couple trips to Vegas. So it worked out well, man. I had a good time. Of course, we would have definitely, like you said, if we wrote the script, we would have came out with the W. But we gave the fans what they wanted. I believe it actually catapulted my career, given that performance that we both put on. And I'm excited for what's next for me.
Absolutely, you look great at the Floyd Mayweather fight. I was surprised because it was a war, and I couldn't believe you looked like you didn't have a fight at all, and you're already back in the gym. It's amazing.
That's what we do, man. We prepare ourselves well. We get ready, and I'm just excited after a fight like that. Call me maybe the fighter in me, but I'm just excited and eager to get back in the ring.
Yeah. So you get the fight with Lucas Matthysse. How'd you find out you had the fight? How'd you find out it was made?
Well, of course, my manager Al Heyman. I mean, he is the man. Like I want to tell everyone, if you're not with Al Heyman, like Floyd said, you're not doing something right. I mean, he really does make the moves. He makes the fights happen. Originally, from what I heard, the rumors, we wanted Adrian Broner. That didn't pan out. He unfortunately took the other Molina, not me. And when they say Lucas Matthysse, I said, well, that's not a bad consolation prize. So no one wanted to face this man. No one was interested in facing him, and I knew that I'm a stronger fighter at 140. I know that my power is real, and it just took a performance against someone number one rated guy in the world like Lucas Matthysse to bring it out.
Yeah, I bet wherever Adrian Broner was during your fight, I bet he was a happy man.
I'm sure he definitely was, but hey, the future is bright. That's a fight that I believe that could be made in the future, and we'll definitely be excited if that fight opportunity presents itself.
What'd you do to prepare for Lucas Matthysse? I heard you were sparring middleweights.
Yeah, we brought in, of course. I mean, I always said Lucas Matthysse is like the William Wallace of boxing. I mean, if you haven't fought him or been in the ring with him, it's all hearsay that he's 7 foot tall and he shoots fire out of his eyes. You hear the myths and the legends that come out of him being, the machine, and rightfully so. I mean, he's fought the best. He's dropped everyone he's ever faced for the most part, and especially knocking out the likes of Lamont Peterson, I believe in 3-4 rounds, if I'm not mistaken. So you definitely got to proceed with caution with a fight like that. But we had the game plan. We knew going into the fight that I'm a far stronger fighter at 140, and that my punching power rivals his, if not is better than his, at 140. And being that I'm, everyone was saying, well, Molina's a smaller man, but stature-wise, I beg to differ. I was the physically bigger man in that ring that night. Granted, he did outweigh me in the fight, but I believe I carried 140 very well. So for preparation, Joe Goosen had the game plan. We weren't going to try to outbox him because that's not my style. That's not my cup of tea. I don't go in there and try to Floyd Mayweather you. That you're never going to get that from someone like me that has the style that I do have. But we did bring in the middleweights. I wanted to bring in the heavy hitters. I wanted to get accustomed and used to that big punch early on, so I could prepare myself to be able to absorb the kind of heat that Lucas Matthysse brings to the table. And I believe everything we did it right. Up until the point of obviously, the 11th round, unfortunately, it didn't turn out our way. But again, I think watching the fight back, there's a few things that we could have done different. And if we do have that rematch again, I believe it's going to be a different outcome.
Yeah. How do you come up with the game plan? You said Joe comes up with the game plan. Do you study tapes yourself, or do you just leave it all?
Well, of course. Every fighter that says they don't study tape I believe, is lying. Everyone watches. It's like saying you don't study before you take a test. Everyone watches. And when I study tape, again, I'm not trying to take away certain things from other guys' styles. I'm not trying to take away certain, because if I would have fought him like Danny Garcia, it wouldn't have been a good night for me because I'm not Danny Garcia. If I would have fought him like Devin Alexander, it wouldn't have been a good night because I'm not Devin Alexander, or Zab Judah for that matter. But what you do is you try to get you familiarize. Sorry, I messed that word up. You familiar yourself with their movement, what they do, what their reactions that they make before they throw a certain punch. So you know that you watch it so many times that when they do certain movements of their body, you can anticipate and expect a certain punch. 9 out of 10 times it's gonna happen because we're creatures of habit. So those are the things I do when I actually watch a fight. So no, we prepared ourselves well. Sparring went really well. Unfortunately, we only had about 6 weeks to get ready for the fight, 6-7 weeks to get ready for the fight, but we were excited because the opportunity that presented itself, and it took this fight for me to finally break through to a certain level, to where the fans actually respect me now and actually know that I'm here to stay at 140.
And the fight was so incredible. That I'm calling it the fight of the year already because there wasn't a single 10-second period where nothing was happening. Something was always happening. It was a brutal fight. It was brutal in every way possible. And I'm just going to go through the fight round by round briefly and just get your take on the rounds as it happened and what you remember from it. I remember when the first round started, you came out real fast. You didn't waste any time, and it was just back and forth action until you landed like a Marcos Maidana type overhand right, and followed by another one, and you kind of had him hurt from the first one, but I think you got a little overexcited. Did you? Because you probably landed that right hand, and you saw so many guys fall before. Do you feel like you kind of got overexcited because it was Lucas Matthysse and you saw him hurt? Did you kind of jump out of your skin a little bit?
No. When I heard him, believe me, I know I hit hard, man. I know like I said, everybody that I've worked with said I'm the hardest puncher they've ever worked with. I had Yuka and Yukita Morales, who were Edwin Valero's trainers, said that I hit harder than Edwin Valero. This is a guy that was, another Lucas Matthysse-ish type of fighter. Yeah. And no, I knew my power was there. When I hit him with that right hand and I saw him stunned, it didn't I got him stunned. It was like, okay, I knew if I landed my right hand, it was going to do something, and he took it pretty well, but I did shake him up, and I tried to, and then I backed him up with another right hand. I was definitely impressed that he was able to stand up to that second right hand, because I did land that right hand pretty good, and and then I wanted to proceed with caution, because he is a veteran, because he's been in there. His last 10 fights were with top 5 of the world, competitors, and he's gotten them out of there. So it would be dumb for me to just go in there and try to go for the kill, not knowing that this is his game plan to try to sucker me in to get me with his big shot. Mm-hmm. So when I did the first round, when I realized I hurt him, it was almost like it was like, okay, I know, like I said before, he's a man just like myself with 2 hands, a heart, and 2 feet.
Yeah. And in the second round, a little more than 30 seconds to go, you landed another big right hand, and you followed that up with another one. And what looked like a minor knockdown on television was actually more of a solid punch. How'd you feel at that point watching him go down? I mean, it was a delayed reaction. Did you think he was as hurt as he?
That's where the mistake lies. That's where I believe I should have ended the fight. Granted, there was 30 seconds left, but I believe if I would have put, right when Pat Russell said go, if I would have put the onslaught of punches together and just went for the kill, I would have got him out of there. And that was the mistake that I made in that fight. If I could go back and do anything in that whole fight, it would have been that moment right there, because I didn't realize until watching the fight back that how hurt he really was. I mean, he was trying to hold on after he got up. And during the fight, again, I was thinking that he was trying, I thought maybe a flash knockdown, but after watching the fight back, he was definitely extremely hurt from those 2 right hands. It wasn't just 1 right hand, because it seemed like that little looper that came over the top that hit him on the side of the head that dropped him, but it was actually the one right before it that really shook him up.
Yeah, because when he went down at first, I didn't think it was a knockdown either, but clearly after they showed the replay, it was a punch. And being someone that kind of looks at the face and the facial expressions of someone, he he looked like he was deflated after that. It seemed like all the confidence or all the what makes him Lucas Matthysse, it just seemed like it got zapped from his body. Did you?
Well, at that point he realized he was in there with a guy that hits just not, if not harder than himself. And then he realized that my knockout ratio, what everyone was saying about me, the good things that people were saying about me were actually pretty accurate. And he had to proceed and to change his game plan and change up his style to go out there and do what he does best. But he knew at that point that I wasn't just there to fill a spot. I was there to catapult my career and be victorious. But then, and he said it himself. He said he's never been hit like that before in his life. No one's ever hurt him the way I hurt him in his life. And I take my hat to him for being man enough to step up to the plate and say that no one's ever hurt him the way I hurt him.
Yeah, definitely. And in the third round, things seemed like they were just getting worse for Lucas. You guys came together with your heads, and it was Lucas that came out with a cut over his left eye. So at that point, when you see blood and you already know that you hurt him in the second round, you felt him clutching, he looked deflated already, then to suffer a cut too. How confident were you feeling between the third and fourth rounds?
Oh, I mean, I felt great. I said, all right, this is going the way I anticipated it to go, believe it or not. During the camp and whatnot, I got off to an early start. But unfortunately, on that headbutt, I too suffered a major cut that I've never suffered before in my career. And matter of fact, it was 15 staples to be accurate. And that was a major cut on the back of my head. And I during the fight, or not during the fight, but when the cut actually happened, I did not feel the cut. The only reason why I knew I was bleeding is because I felt a warm feeling going down my back, and I'm wondering, did the guy bleed on me? And then I realized I was cut, and there was a lot of blood that I lost. Again, watching back the fight, I realized that there was a lot of blood that I bled from that actual cut. But it was two cuts that I came out with during that clash of heads, believe it or not.
Yeah. And in the fourth round, he seemed like he came out with a desperation. Round 4 started, and he really tried to hone in and fight like he wanted to change the tide of the fight. And again, I looked at you, and it seemed like I could sense the same thing, that you could sense that. And he started throwing a lot more right hands with a lot meaner intentions. I'm sure you got a chance to feel some of his power.
I felt his best punch. And when I felt his best punch, I knew it was going to be a great fight because, believe it or not, his best punch, I mean, he's an incredible fighter, heavy-handed, but when I felt his best punch, I knew we were very rival in our punching power, and that it was going to be who's going to land the more effective punches that is going to be victorious that night. And again, I mean, I still scored another knockdown the following round, and he definitely, like I said, when he gave me his best right hand, I don't know, a couple times in the fight, you could look at it, I smiled at him and said, okay, I know what you have now, let's get it on.
Yeah, and in that round 5, he seemed to be focused more on the body at that point. When you thought about fighting Lucas and the power that you're going to have to deal with, from what you felt in the first 3 rounds, was 4 and 5, did it kind of... Was 4 and 5 different than what you felt in the first 3 rounds?
No, not at all. Matter of fact, his power was... It never... I know he says it looked like he hit with more mean... He went after me with more, mean intentions for every punch or bad intentions, but that was something he did throughout the duration of the fight. It was pretty steady throughout the duration of the fight. His power was the same from round 1 to... the last round. It's more of a thudding power, but it wasn't oh my God, he hit me, the show's over. It was like, oh, I can take that. It's not a big deal, but I believe he had to respect my power a lot more.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. Again, there was a couple of the exchanges. If you watch back, it's like I'm telling him, okay, let's go, let's do this. I wanted to show him that there's no respect there. Right off the bat, I wanted to give my respect, and I believe I did that. What I will tip my hat off is he continued to adapt. He adapted his style, and he was going to the body a lot. But through the whole fight, there was one body shot that I really felt, and that was towards the end of the fight, and it was a good body shot. But in order to show, I want to show him that he did didn't hurt me, but I felt the shot, so I had to hit him right back, and that's pretty much how the fight went. Every time he hit me, I hit him. So, his power is definitely above par power, above average. But it was definitely someone that I felt like I can definitely sit there and exchange with him.
Yeah, and he complained that the knockdown in the 5th round wasn't a knockdown. You kind of hit him behind the head, but Pat Russell, the referee, ruled it a knockdown. Did you feel it was a knockdown? And
Oh, absolutely. I hit him, and he went down. It was, if you look at the fight, it's the punch that I throw all the time, like an awkward, quirky looper right hand, and I turn into it. I put down and bring it over the top. And as he seen it coming, he turned his head. So that kind of, I still believe it was legal because it was on the side of the head. If you look at the two different angles, it's like watching one angle. It looks completely like it's completely on the side of the head, and then if you look at the other back two angles, when Al Bernstein said, "Oh yeah, it was behind the head," from that angle, it definitely looks like it was behind the head. But it's just like watching football. If you see it in a certain angle, you're gonna say, "Oh, his knee was down," and then you watch from a completely other angle, and you're gonna say, "Wow, his knee wasn't down." So that's exactly. It was definitely a judgment call, and I believe Pat Russell made the right call on that one because I've knocked down plenty of guys with that same punch.
Yeah, absolutely. And up to that point, it was already looking like it was going to be an incredible fight through until it ended, whenever it did end. But it was interesting after that round ended because kind of Lucas Matthysse kind of controlled the round until the knockdown, so you got the round. But Joe Goosen, and he tries to stay calm, and he's not really a calm guy, but he tries to stay calm and keep you calm too. What makes you and Joe mesh so well, and what is it about Joe's style of training that keeps you focused on the fight as it's going on? And it is a back and forth fight. You feel it as you're in it. What is it about Joe, and how's Joe keep you into a fight like that and feeling like you're in charge?
Well, he definitely is the man you got to trust. Has been in the game for numerous years. He's a Hall of Fame trainer. He's been in there with the likes of Diego Krause, throughout his brothers, Michael Nunn, Casamayor, Shane Mosley, just to name a few. So he's been to the mountaintop before. He knows what to expect being at that mountaintop. And again, me and him, I trust his judgment. If I didn't trust his judgment, he wouldn't be in my corner. So when he says this, that, or the other, you tend to listen, and that's what makes for a good recipe for a fighter and a trainer. Because if you tend to take it for granted what the trainer does or what he tells you, then you're pretty much flying blind out there because you need to, going into the fight, you need to give 110% control into Joe Goose. And it's just, I've been in the fights before, but it's just like I've been on an airplane a million times. I would never go try to fly the plane. You know what I mean? This is what Joe does, and I do the fighting. So we learn to trust him, and I always use the analogy, if Joe tells me in the middle of the fight that the grass outside is purple, well then, and you ask me what color the grass is outside, I'm going to tell you it's purple. That's how much trust you need to put into the individual that's in the captain's seat of the actual during the fight.
Yeah, and the 6th round was another round where Lucas seemed to do more, but clearly you showed that it was like the last 10 seconds, I believe, and you landed another right hand that stopped him right in his tracks, and his legs turned to spaghetti. So it was another round that was really hard to score. Lucas probably controlled the round for a more longer time, but that punch hurt him and clearly hurt him. When round 7 was going on, I couldn't believe that it was round 7 already. I thought it was like round 4. The fight was flying by. When you're in a fight like that, does it feel like it's going by fast too, or is it longer to you because you have to watch them for every second that the fight's going on? If you let up, you could get caught with something and get put to sleep. So how is that fight feeling when you're in it? When you can't let up and you have to stay watching? Does it fly by, or does it feel like it's taking an eternity?
Each round goes by pretty quick. There's certain things that you want to go out there and do and implement during the game, during the rounds that go by. Certain, like I said, game plans and strategies and certain reasons why you do certain things during the fight. So they do seem like it's going by pretty quick. But when it's a 12-round fight, you do know that you have a lot of time to go ahead and maneuver and do what you got to do. But it definitely does seem like it was flying by, given the fact that there wasn't any dull moments there in those fights. It was give and take. It was a fight that I loved to fight, to be honest with you. It was the kind of fight that You're there. You're there to exchange. Both men are heavy hitters. Both men are going out with bad intentions, and they both have something to prove. So yeah, it does. Inside the fight, it's definitely a different perspective from watching the fight, from where you guys are sitting and being in the fight. But yeah, it definitely seems like the fight goes by relatively quickly, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and up to the seventh round, the fight was like one guy launching a bomb from a distance away and stuff like that. But in the seventh round, you kind of went into a phone booth and you guys just stood shoulder to shoulder, and the crowd was quiet. And it just seemed like every hook you guys kept exchanging everyone was brutal. Was it as painful for you to fight a fight like that? Was the seventh round like a brutal round for you and him both? Because it just looked like every shot was meant to knock the other guy out, and you were standing shoulder to shoulder. Was the seventh round and the way that he was hitting you, and was that any different than the rest of the fight? Or do you like
No, it was definitely, like I said, everything seemed to be very on point. Everything seemed to be pretty standard from round one to round done. We were sitting there trying to exchange, and this is the type of fighters that we are, and each shot was thudding for sure. They were thudding shots, but we prepared very well for that. We knew what we were doing. We knew what we were getting ourselves into. So, to be honest with you, that's where I felt most comfortable. It wasn't like I wasn't, every time he would land a shot, I would land my shot. It was kind of like, I take yours, can you take mine? And it was definitely the fight I wanted to be in. It was the fight that we wanted to be in, especially once we knew what he possessed as far as his punching power, and I tasted it and I'd seen what it was all about. That's exactly where I wanted to be.
Yeah, it seemed like his conditioning was superb, though. He wasn't getting tired, and it seemed like in the eighth round that you did start getting tired. Is that true? Did you start getting tired in the eighth round?
Believe it or not, my right leg, I think it was a great punch that he was landing to a little bit on the belt line, on my hip. He kept hitting me on the hip, which I believe was hats off to him. It was a very crafty veteran move. And my right leg going into about the 7th to 8th round was completely, I couldn't really move my leg like I was in the beginning of the fight. And it was from those punches, because I had a bruise on my hip from the actual punch that he kept hitting me with. So I believe it was a definite veteran move that he did, and it slowed down a little bit of the movement that I had, which I'm not saying movement like a Floyd Mayweather movement, but sometimes I would use my height and my advantages of being a bigger in stature and bigger physical man to get out of the way of those big shots that he was throwing. And when I couldn't utilize that like I was early on in the fight, I felt like it would definitely hindered me in certain areas. But again, no excuses. It was a great fight. I don't mind sitting there. If we both didn't have any legs and we sat in the middle of the ring and just threw bomb for bomb, I wouldn't mind doing that either.
Yeah, and I remember I was watching the fight with my cousin, and in the eighth round I said, it looks like Molina's getting tired. And soon after that, 20 seconds to go in the roundabout, and he threw a flurry of shots, and you fell down. But you didn't say anything to the ref. It didn't look like it was a knockdown. It looked like it could have been ruled a push. Why didn't you complain about it, or you're just not a complainer?
It was definitely a push. I was more off balance than anything, and but that my job is there to fight. If I fight the ref, then I got two guys in there I got to fight. My job in there is to focus on Lucas Matthysse. To be honest with you, I didn't think he was going to rule it a knockdown. If you look back at the videotape, watch the tape of the fight, I look up at Pat Russell kind of like, did you not see that? It was pretty much clear as day. But unfortunately, he ruled it a knockdown, and that's what it was. So we had some catching up to do for that round, at least.
Yeah, and in between those rounds, in between rounds 8 and 9, Joe told you not to let him back in the fight. You know that your hip is starting to hurt. Do you feel, when you answer yes to Joe, like you're not going to let him back in the fight, are you aware fully of what's going on still after the fight that it's been? And do you think that at that point, do you feel like you can prevent him from getting back in the fight? Or are you not sure?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there were certain things that, again, I don't think he's ever been in a fight like this before, but he's been at this level, so to speak, a little bit more than myself has. I'm barely breaking into this level, for lack of a better term. And, we definitely felt like we could have kept him at bay, but again, I think the fight was close all the way down the line. I don't believe that it should have been. It was definitely close all the way down the stretch. But no, to answer your question, I definitely felt like I could have controlled the fight a little bit more. But again, you're not going to say no if your leg's going down. That's not something you say, because mentally you got to keep your mind positive. So your mind, because the mind's very strong, and during the fight, knowing that you're continue to push and continue to exchange punches, you don't want to put any negativity in your mind, especially going into a war like we were having that night.
And you said that you don't mind going toe to toe, and if you did have to go toe to toe, you'd feel totally comfortable doing that with him. But in the 9th round, your back was starting to get against the ropes, and he was leaning on you on the ropes, and that's not where you want to be. Did you know that you had to stop that in the 9th round?
Yeah, yes and no, but believe it or not, I know it may sound idiotic at certain times, but I'm comfortable. Even if my back's on the ropes, I'm comfortable, because in order for him to exchange it or let his big punch go, he's going to leave him open so I can let my big punch go. So I'll take his punch in order to land my punch. And up until that point, it was proven that I could take his punch better than he could take my punch. So you got to remember, at that level of that period of the fight, I still felt like it was definitely whoever lands their big punch flush and can't take it is going to be the one that's going to come out victorious. But I don't mind. I'm comfortable. I'm very comfortable there. You know, and like I said, if we do it again, and if we do it again, I'll feel very comfortable, and I believe there's going to be a different outcome. He knows that I know him. He knows that I know what to expect in the fight, and he also knows that I can definitely hurt him.
And I remember the 10th round, and when I saw you putting your back against the ropes again, I was thinking, he's got his back against the ropes again, and I didn't feel like that's where you wanted to be, though. And
well, I mean, in a perfect world, of course, we don't want to be there. I'd rather have his back against the ropes. Yeah. But we were definitely there, but it wasn't like, oh, shit, here we go, excuse my language. It wasn't like, oh, crap, here we are. It was like, okay, here we are, we're going to fight, because this is what we train to do.
Mm-hmm. And when I noticed that your back was against the ropes again, he hit you with a barrage that sent you down. Did it ever cross your mind to quit, or did you just think about maybe letting the ref finish the count? It was a tough fight. You know your legs are hurting. And how did you feel at that point? Did it ever cross your mind to just quit?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, come on, man. If I was a quitter, I wouldn't be in this sport. No, not at all. That's like asking me not to take another breath. I mean, this is what I do. Is what I enjoy to do. And in the fight, matter of fact, that first barrage of punches going back in, I believe, the 10th round or the 9th round, I took a knee willingly just to kind of stop the pace real quick, just to slow it down, because he was definitely picking up his momentum. So I took my knee willingly, given something I've learned the hard way early on in my career, to where there was a flurry of punches. I can definitely lose the round but win the battle, Yeah. So I took a knee willingly because I wanted to stop what was going on, because he was getting onto a hot streak, if you will, again, for lack of a better term. Yeah. And that's what I did. I sat there, I looked at the referee, looked at Pat, he got to 8, I got back up and said, okay, let's do it again. And we started mixing it up. And we started mixing it up because Pat had told me, that you got to show me something, kid. So that's when I kind of said, all right, he threw a couple punches, I started winging my shots, and we ended the round on a high note.
And what are you thinking in between the 10th and 11th rounds when the doctor went to look at you in between rounds and Joe kind of got hot-tempered? Maybe he was trying to psych you up for the next round coming up. But what were you thinking when the doctor was trying to look at you?
You know what? I'm not going to touch on it too much, because it is what it is. But the powers that be, they obviously knew that this was a fight that they didn't anticipate on having. And the doctor was going in there. I mean, he's telling me I'm bleeding profusely from the side of my face, which was completely false. Joe told me, no, it's actually on the side of his head. I know that I'm bleeding profusely, but again, positivity in your corner and in your mind going into a fight, especially a war like that, there's no need for that. The doctor is definitely there to keep the safety of the fighters. I definitely understand that and respect that. But at the same time, Joe's been in this game 40-some years, I believe, a lot longer than the doctor. And, it was just, him trying, Joe was trying to keep me positive going into that round. We know, I mean, it's no surprise to us. We knew we had 2 major gashes on the side of our head and the back of our head. From what the doctor was telling me, he said I was bleeding profusely from my face. which was completely false information. And I take my hat off to Joe. Maybe not for the way he conducted himself in the corner. There could have been a different approach, but he was there fighting for what he believed in, and that was to fight for the best interest of his fighter, which is me. So that's what Joe is paid to do. That's what Joe is trained to do, and he did everything right, to my knowledge. I'm not saying the way he conducted himself and the way he took on the doctor. I'm not saying that was great, but I'm saying the fact that he was fighting for what he believed was right. I take my hat off to him for that.
Yeah, and I think
and going into that fight, even going into the 11th round, when Lucas did drop me in that 11th round, Pat Russell called it off right away. He jumped I went down and said, okay, I'm going to take a quick breather and get back up. As I rolled over, Pat Russell was on top of me. I wanted to continue to go, but Pat Russell, I believe, you gotta imagine he was in the middle of the ring for this fight, and Pat Russell, a hell of a referee. He came up to me and said, hell of a fight. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it. So, hats off to Pat Russell. He did his job. But to answer your question, of course, I want to continue fighting. Of course, we come this far. We want to cross the line.
Yeah, and that's why you're called the Gladiator. I mean, to me, I can understand Pat Russell because the fight was absolutely brutal, and you're kind of like you're seeing it from a different perspective. You're in the fight, but there's people there cringing with the sounds of the punches and stuff. So I can't blame them, but I can understand your disappointment. I mean, it
definitely is a disappointment, but you got to remember that's a two-way street. I mean, the punches were thudding from both angles. Granted, maybe he was landing more at that point of the fight, but they were still thudding both ways. Absolutely. I mean, they were still coming with great force on both sides. It wasn't just a one-sided deal. Granted, Lucas was definitely stepping up the tempo at that point, so I understand that. But fight the fight. We train for this. We're top-rated, world-rated athletes. This is what we prepare for. It's not like we just started doing this overnight. And there was a lot of naysayers saying that Joe should have stopped the fight. He shouldn't have sent Molina out there for that fight. Well, I'm sorry, guys. I want to be there and tell you that Joe knows me better than anyone else, as far as other than my father and people that have worked with me. But in the boxing perspective, Joe knows my mind. We're with each other 6 days a week. He understands what makes me tick. He knows what I go through in the gym. He knows my tolerance, if you will, for a fight. So that's the reason why Joe doesn't stop a fight. He shouldn't stop a fight. Joe knows if I'm completely hurt, he understands, I employ this man to protect me against myself. Yeah. And I believe I have a great judge of character. I have a great judge of someone that's going to do right by me. So I don't think Joe should have ever even entertained the thought about stopping this fight, because it was in a fight that I believe we were still in, and it was a war. And thank God Joe didn't stop the fight up until that point, because then the fans wouldn't have got that treat that they did get.
Yeah, and everyone knows that you are in it to the very end. And I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I always did feel like you were in the fight, and I know exactly how you feel. And it was back and forth. It was not a one-sided fight whatsoever. But you do learn a lot from a loss too. What do you feel like if the rematch does happen, if the fight is as rough as if the first one was? What did you learn in this fight that you can do different?
I'll tell you this. When I get him hurt again, because it's not if, it's when I get him hurt again, because our styles are very similar in the fact that we do hit hard, we come forward. We're both not the most technically sound fighters, but we're definitely fighters nonetheless. When I hurt him, I take him out. I don't wait and sit there and see if he's going to play possum. I go in there and I take him out. That's what I've learned from this. And you got to remember, I was in there with Lucas Matthysse, who is, one of the most feared men, especially in that weight division. I would definitely take that fight again, but I believe Al Heyman has other things in his mind, and what he says, and whatever he says, and whoever he puts in front of me, that's who we fight next. But if it was Lucas Matthysse to get it on again, immediately following this fight, let's do it. I'm all for it. Sign it up. I believe the fans want to see it. I believe StubHub wants to see it again. So, and I believe Showtime would definitely love that fight again. So, if that's the fight that needs to be made, hey, I'm all for it. Present me the contract, and I'll sign on the dotted line. Let's do it again.
I'm not a trainer. The only thing I would like to see you do is, instead of going to the ropes, just hold them you could hold. I was
No,
begging you to hold.
you definitely can, but you got to remember, call it my ADD, call it whatever you want, but I feel like when I'm holding or doing something different, that's me losing an opportunity to land one of my big shots.
That's a gladiator. And as soon as the fight was over, I immediately went on Facebook and I said it was the fight of the year, and I think I got more likes for that than I did for anything I ever posted. Everybody agreed with that. By the time December rolls around, I just know that no fight's gonna surpass it. Do you feel that way as soon as the fight's over? Do you realize that you were in a fight of the year candidate, or are you in the fight and you don't even think about it yet at that point? Do you realize it? How great a fight it was?
No, you don't think about it yet. I really didn't realize how special of a fight we were in until I heard, the clamoring of the fans, until my phone was ringing off the hook, until immediately following talking to my manager, Al Heyman. You don't realize until the next couple of days that I actually realized, because you're in the fog of the fight,
Yeah.
Right there, your mindset is completely different. It's almost like if you're not a civilian, it's almost like if your mind is switched to go out and do a job. That's what we do. We train our mindset to be prepared and go out and do something like that. And I realized it when, the world really, the boxing world really accepted me with open arms after this fight, and thank God for that, because it took a long 8 years to finally get to this point, and I've done certain things in the ring that I'm very proud of, and I've done certain things in the ring that were definitely a learning some kind of learning lesson that I had to learn, on the job. A mistake that I had to utilize to become a better fighter because of, and I don't have to mention them because they're so popular, and it just, I'm very happy, man. Right now, where I'm at in life and where I'm at in my career, I'm extremely excited. I'm extremely excited to see what's next for me. I'm extremely excited to see that if we get Adrian Broner, Danny Garcia, Lamont Peterson, Lucas Matthysse again, these are the guys that I want. To be honest with you, I would love Lamont Peterson, world champion. That, if he's looking for somebody and, we're both managed by Al Heyman, that's a fight that can be made. And I believe now that the fans know who I am, now that the fans know I'm willing to go out on my shield, I believe any fight that I fight, I believe the fans will follow me and go to watch, because I will give my all for the entertainment of the sport.
Yeah, we definitely know that about you. And you fight the fight of the year. Is it an honor to be recognized, or is it just sweet if you won the fight? Is it just as good knowing that you're going to take part in half of the people? Two guys fight the fight. You're one of those two guys. Is that an honor?
It's definitely something that's very, very prestigious, something that's very sought after as a fighter. To be able to be recognized, especially recognized in the world, and recognized to be in there with something that, giving the fans something that not only just that night, but that's going to notch itself in history of great fights. And so that part is an honor, but the competitive side of me, we want the W. We definitely want the W. I believe Lucas Matthysse, me and him, I believe we could have a rubber match. I believe we could have a rematch and then a rubber match after it, because I know if we fight again, I'm going to get the victory. And there's definitely, I'm a better fighter. Every fight that I've come off of, I've become a better fighter because of it. And you got to remember, my chronological age is not that of what everyone else is at, because I didn't start boxing until I was literally 16 years old, 17 years old. I didn't turn pro until I was 24, so I learned on the job. And I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to get back in the gym, because there's things that I've learned in that fight alone that I can utilize now into my arsenal. It's going to make me that much of a better fighter. And at 140, I think the sky's the limit for me. I think it's wide open. With the guys that are out there, there's entertaining fights, and I think the fans are just going to get their money's worth every time they see us fight.
Yeah, you said that Lucas said that he never got hit as hard as you hit him. Did he tell you that, or did you just pick that up in when he was telling that to other people? And did you guys have a chance to talk to each other after that fight?
Yeah, you can see we talked immediately following. But yeah, I was right next to the interview.
Mm-hmm.
I was right next to him during the interview that he was having, when he did say that no one's ever hurt him the way I hurt him. Yeah. And no one's ever hit him the way I hit him. But immediately following the fight, obviously you saw the interviews on TV and whatnot. But I walked right up to him and said, "Hey man, let's do it again." And he kind of smiled and laughed. He says, "All right, when?" I said, "Well, we can do it tomorrow." I said, and then I told him, you know what? Actually, let's do it next weekend. I think I need a little bit of time to rest. And we started laughing. So he was definitely a good sport. Lucas Matthysse was definitely a good sport. I think when you fight someone like that, you have nothing but respect for each other, because I know he took my best, and I definitely took his best. And he was never one to talk crap. He's not a crap talker, you know. And so yeah, definitely, it's honorable to be able to be mentioned in Fight of the Year. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of what it's done for my career. Literally, I mean, I'm the rare occasion that in a loss that actually catapulted my career. You know, but with that being said, I want to get back in the ring. I want to take on the best. I want to knock out the Adrian Broners of the world. I want to knock out Lamont Peterson. I want to knock out. I don't want to fight. I want to knock him out. I want to show them that I am one of the hardest punchers at 140. I mean, this is what I want to do. You know, I'm excited. I'm excited to get back into the gym, which I'm already back in the gym, just to go down there and hit a bag and movement and throw these punches. I just can't wait to get into my next fight. I can't wait for that contract to be presented, so I know the fight's ready, and now it's time to fight.
Yeah, I'd like to sick you on Adrian Broner.
I think the fans will love that, and I think that's a hell of a fight. Again, Adrian Broner, you can say what you want about him. Yeah, is he arrogant? Of course. Face value, he's one of the most arrogant guys that you've ever seen. The way he carries himself, the way he talks. Of course, there's a lot of people that don't like that. But the one thing you have to respect, not his last fight, but the fight against Marcos Maidana. This is a guy that can crack. This is a guy that's relentless, that fights. If anyone in the world's supposed to be a fighter, it's Marcos Maidana. And yes, did Adrian Broner get his butt kicked in that fight? Absolutely, from pillar to post. He did have some moments in that fight where he looked good. And not only that, he finished the fight on his feet. So you got to take your hat off to him for that. I mean, regardless if he's an idiot outside of the ring, you got to take your hat off to the man for being able to be in there with someone like Marcos Maidana and finish on his feet. Because keep in mind, he went in there with a guy that, and really, Adrian Broner's not a 47-pounder. He's not by any stretch of the imagination. But he went in there and he finished the fight on his feet. So I got to give him credit for that. But we definitely know what style disrupts Adrian Broner. So, and I believe my style fits that style like a glove.
I think you're right. And quickly, what did Joe Goosen say to you after that fight? You said to yourself that nobody knows you in the boxing world more than Joe Goosen. What did he say to you after seeing that?
Well, me and him both kind of cringed when we watched the fight. And not cringing like, oh, it's a tough fight. We cringed because we didn't capitalize on certain things that we should have capitalized. For instance, the second round. We should have taken him out. But again, this is something that I've learned. It's a learning experience for me. This is learning on the job. It just so happened we learned on the job against one of the best fighters in the world. And now I know when I cross that bridge, how to cross that bridge. And those are the things that sometimes it's hard to talk about, because I believe we could have walked out of there with a W. But we didn't capitalize on certain things, certain parts, certain moments in that fight that we should have capitalized on. We let it slip through our fingertips, and unfortunately, Lucas Matthysse is the kind of fighter that you don't want to let opportunities like that slip through your fingertips. So, but we learned. And if the fight presents itself again, if the fight happens again, we'll definitely capitalize at those moments next time.
How long did it take you to feel good again after that fight? It was a brutal fight. Did it take you some time to heal up, or did you feel good?
I would say that about 2-3 days.
Yeah, wow.
3 days. The second day wasn't brutal, but there's a couple 800s that had to pop. You know, a couple some ibuprofen for sure. You know, what really bugged me was the staples that I had in my head. The staples kind of sucked.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, the doctor he went in the dressing room to do my staples, and he saw the back of my head, and he's like, okay, and he did the numbing medicine to numb it. He's I'm gonna staple your head. I was like, all right, whatever, let's get this done. And then he goes, whoa, wait a minute, there's 2 cuts. I was like, Doc, you didn't know this? I mean, you were checking my head in the whole direction of the fight. I have 2 cuts from the headbutt. And then he goes back and he goes, oh, well, I don't have numbing medicine for the next cut. I was like, nah, Doc, you're gonna numb this. You're not just gonna staple my head. So I just went through a war, and you're gonna staple my head without numbing it first. He's like, come on, it'll be real quick. I'm like, whatever, man, let's do this. And he popped 7 staples in my head and my other cut with no numbing medicine.
Oh my God!
And I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. Honestly, that hurt more than anything I took during the fight.
But where you are now, and you did lose the fight, but you're in a way better place than you were in September 2012. You suffered that devastating first round knockout at the hands of Antonio DeMarco, and
well, I wasn't going to bring that up, but I guess you had. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but some guys would go away after that fight. They just might have been disgusted with it and maybe felt like it wasn't for them or just been embarrassed or anything. But a lot of people wouldn't have come back. And it seemed like in your fight with Andrei Klimov, you were kind of still feeling that downness from that defeat. But you got your mojo back when you were chosen to be, I think, Mickey Bay's fodder. They didn't expect you to be as tough as you were on Mickey Bay. But you seemed to get your mojo back, and it set you up for this fight with the Machine. Did you feel like you're all the way back now? And do you feel like you put that devastating night against Antonio DeMarco to rest, and you proved to yourself that you can take these kind of big punches? Because you don't know it until you're in the fight. Do you feel like you finally put that all to rest?
No, I believe that's water under the bridge. But Antonio DeMarco, he never hurt me like everyone anticipated or thinks that he hurt me. Antonio DeMarco is a great fighter. I got nothing but respect for him. Great fighter. I wish him nothing but the best because he is definitely one of the most stand-up guys that I've ever met in the sport. Yeah. But that fight was, again, he never hurt me like everyone. Everyone was thinking that I had a glass chin because I got wobbled by a jab that he threw, and that was the only punch he really did. And I wasn't hurt when they stopped that fight, but it was a learning experience. It was my first time on the big stage. It was a lot to take in for a young man, not chronologically, but a young man in the sport. It was a lot to take in that night, and I learned from it. So I think that's definitely a race. I think the world knows that I have a great chin now. I believe they do. I mean, I took everything Lucas Matthysse had to offer. Yeah. And I believe everyone knows that my chin is real. My punching power is real. And I believe, we definitely put that to rest. DeMarco, like I said, I got nothing but great things to say about him because he's a great guy.
Yeah. What do you do?
Inside and outside the ring.
I think you put that to rest. I just said that, in my opinion, you put that to rest. You answered any questions that I had, and you left no doubt after that Lucas Matthysse fight. What did you do to relax after the fight was over? I know you're a family man. Tell us about your family, and what'd you do after the fight? Did you go away and enjoy a vacation yet, or are you waiting?
Oh yeah, we did some definite vacation time. First I got to spend a lot of time with my daughter. My wife, when I'm in camp, she is a team player. She takes over. Kind of gives me the break, that I need during the training camp, and I got to go back and spend some time with my daughter, which I love, and hang out. And she watches the TV and sees Daddy on TV, and boom, 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 boom. My daughter's only 17 months old. That's something I really enjoy. I guess if you guys want to get really personal, me and my wife have been. We got some general contracts in here remodeling the house from the ground up, which is beautiful. It's always a good thing to have something that you own and something that you enjoy, to see all the new things going on, and just kind of I've been spending a lot of family time, for lack of a better term. I mean, that's, I guess, what you call family time. I had my best friend's birthday. I have my friends outside of boxing that we all hang out and enjoy some time, and me and my wife went out to Vegas to enjoy Mayweather's fight. We went back to Vegas because my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law are both getting married, so we went out there to hang out. So it was definitely a good relaxation time, for a fighter, and any fighter will tell you this. One thing that we all love to do is eat, and definitely eat knowing that we don't have to make a certain weight. So eating is something that I've definitely been indulging in. We've been eating all the steaks that we want, and just having a good time. I mean, having a real good time and enjoying all the fruits of our labor, if you will. Boxing is a beautiful thing. Boxing has provided for me, provided for my family. Boxing has bought me the house that I live in, bought me the cars that I drive. Boxing has done it all for me. So I would never disrespect boxing, and I would never and allow myself to prepare well for boxing because it's given me so much. And I'm very, I take that very serious. The fact that I am here today, able to raise my family, able to support my family, and able to have a beautiful home, beautiful cars, and just have my family provided for. I will never not give the fans what they want in the ring.
It's easy to root for you, and you sparred middleweights getting ready for Lucas Matthysse, and you're eating all those steaks. You're probably a middleweight right now.
Hey, I'm not going to reveal that too much. Asking a fighter his weight, like asking a woman her weight. It's something we really don't tend to share. But I am a definite big 140-pounder. I will definitely. I don't allow myself to go too far away because, again, this is my livelihood, and I take it very serious. And so whenever I feel like there's an extra jiggle here or extra jiggle there, I'll call up my strength and conditioning coach and say, okay, give me a supplement that is all natural, that will clean me out and get me back on my regiment now, because I don't want to have to work that much harder during camp to lose the weight. I don't like to balloon up like everyone else does.
Yeah. When do you plan to get back in the ring? You're already in the gym now. When's your next fight?
Well, as soon as Al Heyman gives me the call, we're waiting on the call, and we've been talking throughout the last couple of weeks, but right now we're waiting on Al and Sam and all those guys to set something up. There's a lot of good things in the works. The beautiful thing is my name against X, Y, and Z all makes sense, so it doesn't matter whoever it is. That's the beautiful thing. Even if if Figueroa decides to come up to 140, we can do that. And I just may entertain maybe considering if someone were to be of value at 135, maybe a Gamboa, something like that, maybe someone else that holds the title at 135. If they make me a hell of an offer, maybe I'll consider going down to 35. But as of right now, I'm a 140-pounder, and that's where I belong, I believe. I mean, I think it showed itself that night of the fight that 140 pounds is where I belong. I believe I look stronger, and I believe I hit a lot harder at 140. And I believe I brought my punch with me. I think it only enhances as I go up in weight.
Yeah, it looked like you did. And are you picking Gamboa to beat Terrence Crawford, or you're not even thinking about that fight? Because
I have thought about the fight, and Terrence Crawford is a hell of a fighter. I mean, he's gifted. He's very athletic. I don't know his punching power yet, but I've seen him beat some big punchers. Gamboa, we know he's gifted as a fighter, but we know he has a major Amir Khan Achilles heel, and that is that chin. Granted, he's been dropped, but he's never been knocked out, so you can't really nail him on it too much. But when you're dropped by the likes of guys that are 122 pounds, 126 pounds, and then you're coming up to guys at 130, 135, the punches taste a little different at those weight classes. So if you have a problem there, you may have a problem now. So that's going to be a very intriguing fight. I'm not going to say who I think is going to win on that fight, but it'll definitely be entertaining nonetheless. And I think it'll be a good fight to watch. But like I said, that's just food for thought, 135. That's an afterthought. But I still believe there's beautiful matchups for me at 140 right now. And another thing I want to address with all the fans is I'm not getting punch drunk. I don't slur my words. I was born with a speech impediment. I have a small lisp. If you haven't seen or heard and listened and heard the way I talk now. So my motor skills are excellent to all the fans. I believe I give a great interview. And I just want to let the fans know that I'm okay. And if they did notice a slur, it's because I have a lisp and I have a small speech impediment.
See that when I think of a lisp, I think of Mike Tyson. You don't sound like Tyson. I'll tell you that.
I try my hardest not to, but my S's are very hard to say, and hey, I can fight, so it makes up for it.
Right. And I don't know when you'll be back in the ring, but I look forward to it. Whenever you fight, it's must-see TV. You have a swelling of fans, a lot of love from the people. How do they follow you? I know you're on Twitter, you're on Facebook. How do your fans reach out and show you some love?
John Molina Jr. 135. At John Molina Jr. 135. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You guys can. I have an app. It's free, Android and Apple, Mac, iPhone. John Molina Jr. Just type it in, it'll come up. You guys can talk to me one-on-one like that. I like to answer all my questions, even if they are haters, even if they're people that talk crap. If I take the time, I can definitely answer their questions. But again, you got to remember, you're gonna have people always, you have so many haters. I said Floyd Mayweather is pound for pound the best guy of our era, and he still has haters. So if you have haters or people that love you, you're doing something right. But they can definitely follow me there, and I'm just excited to interact with these fans because I really feel like they can relate to me as a real person, and everything that I fight for, and everything that I do, and everything that I possess. I will never claim to be the most technically sound fighter, but I am definitely a fighter, and I would definitely go after anybody they put me in there with. And my goal is not to beat them; my goal is to knock them out.
My guest today for the fight that was the fight of the year a few weeks ago. It's not even half over the year, but I'm declaring it the fight of the year already. No fight's going to surpass the fight that we're talking about tonight when my guest, Covina, California's own, the Gladiator John Molina Jr. fought the Machine. He went up against Lucas Matthysse, and the fans won. John, it was an amazing fight. It didn't turn out the way it